All right, let's get back into the forge.
All right, everyone, settle in. We're diving into some heavy lifting today. We're picking up with the hymn, specifically looking at how the authors connect the very bones of our biology to the stars themselves.
Heavy is right. I'm already feeling the weight of it. It's one of those chapters where you realize the history we were taught is just a thin veneer over something much more metallic.
Metallic, like my new percussion set?
Not quite, Paco. Think more cosmic. Look, right at the start of this section, the authors bring up this concept of celestial metal. They mention the god Set, which we talked about before, the outsider figure, and they say he was the lord of metals in these ancient Kemetic mysteries.
And they aren't just talking about bronze or copper, they're getting weird.
Exactly. Look how they phrase this. They say some ancient papyri claim Set's actual skeleton was made of meteoric iron.
Wait, stop. Meteoric iron? Like literally fallen from the sky?
That's the claim. And it's not just him. They link this to these star ancestors who supposedly had metallic bones. It's this idea that the divine isn't just spirit. It's a physical, heavy, structural reality.
That is wild. It reminds me of those ceremonies in Yakutia I saw in a documentary, the ones with the iron skeletons on the costumes.
Of course you bring up shamanic costumes, Paco, but he's right. The book actually makes that connection. It says the iron symbolizes death and the rebirth of the shaman. The idea that the leather of the very self is stripped away to reveal a metallic, permanent core.
Right, and they use the term axis mundi, this iron pillar that connects the earth to the stars. It even mentions a bridge of swords in Celtic myth. It's this recurring, terrifyingly beautiful image of a path made of blades leading to the divine.
It's so visceral. But then it gets even more intense. They move into the alchemy of it. They talk about the god's bones being made of silver or gold.
Yeah, look at this part about Antu. They say his bones were silver, revealed when his skin was stripped away. And then there's this distinction. Gold is the divine flesh, but iron is the star seed of the 7 stars, ruled by Nut, the sky goddess.
So, the metal isn't just a decoration, it's the actual DNA of the cosmos.
It's the shadow history of biology, if you will. We think we're just carbon and water, but they're arguing we're built from the debris of exploded stars and ancient fallen magic.
And it ties back to that Luciferian theme we've been tracking. They bring up Tubal Cain, the archetypal blacksmith, and link him to the Egyptian cult of Horus Beheida. They describe a foundry, or a smithy, where priests literally tended to the god like a blacksmith tends to a forge.
This is the part that gets me. They're saying the all-seeing eye isn't just a symbol of surveillance. It's the literal transmission of wisdom from the Watchers, encoded in the very tools of the craft.
Like the blacksmiths weren't just making swords, they were forging consciousness.
Precisely, and that leads us directly into the next big jump in the text, Chapter 7, Sons of the Widow. They move from ancient smithies to, well, Freemasonry.
Here we go, the secret society part. I bet you're going to say it's just a bunch of guys in aprons meeting in a pub, Seth.
Well, the authors actually start by acknowledging that. They say modern people see Masons as just middle-class people with secrets, but then they pivot. They suggest the craft was actually a way to preserve this heretical knowledge of the Watchers.
I love that tension. The idea that the tools, the hammers, the levels, the compasses are just for building cathedrals, but are symbols for spiritual evolution.
But wait, they also mention the speculative Masons. The ones who don't actually build anything.
Right, the ones who turn the physical work of stone cutting into a metaphor for moral self-development. But, and this is the huge claim they bring up, the controversial idea that the Knights Templar might have been the ones who actually founded early Freemasonry in Scotland.
Here comes the conspiracy.
It's a historical debate, not a conspiracy. They cite Andrew Michael Ramsey, who claimed the Templars brought these ancient mysteries of Isis and Diana back from the Crusades.
It's like a chain, isn't it? From the meteoric bones of Set, to the blacksmiths of Egypt, to the Templars, to the Masons. It's one continuous hidden lineage.
A lineage made of iron, silver, and gold. Just don't ask me to pay for the museum tickets to see it.
We're just getting started, Paco. We haven't even touched the Rosicrucians yet. Alright, we're moving from the broad strokes of the shadow history into the actual legend. We're looking at the Fama Fraternitas.
Oh, the fame of the Brotherhood. This is the part where the history books get blurry, isn't it?
Exactly. The authors point out that this legendary story about how the Rosicrucian order was founded wasn't even published until 1614. It was basically a viral sensation for anyone who could read back then.
The 17th century version of a Twitter thread.
Pretty much. And the protagonist? A German mystic named Christian Rosenkreuz. But the book makes it clear that's not his real name. As a kid, he was sent to a monastery to become a priest, but he rebelled.
I can respect that. The monastery life was a bit too much structure for him.
He actually ran away with an old monk on a journey to the Middle East. The monk died on the way, but Rosenkreuz made it to Damascus. And here's where it gets juicy. He didn't just wander around, he found a group of Kabbalistic initiates.
So he goes from Christian monasticism to Jewish mysticism in one trip.
And then he keeps moving. He travels through Fez in North Africa and Moorish Spain. He's studying the occult arts under Arab masters. He's learning how to call spirits and the secrets of alchemy.
Wait, so the secret of the Rosicrucians is actually Islamic?
That's the massive claim the authors are making. They suggest that because he studied under Muslim occultists, he was likely au fait, well acquainted with Sufism.
The internal mystical school of Islam. That's a huge connection.
It is. They even bring in Idris Shah, who compared Rosicrucianism to the Sufi order of the Qadiriyya. They both use the symbol of the red rose.
The red rose? So the path of the rose isn't just a pretty metaphor, it's a literal bridge between Western alchemy and Islamic mysticism.
Exactly. The authors argue the rose is a symbol of those groups who kept the flame burning through centuries of persecution. It's a survival mechanism for forbidden knowledge.
It's a very pretty way to describe a global underground resistance.
And when Rosenkreuz finally returns to Germany, he's more than a student. He's a missionary. He wants to save Europe from moral degradation by spreading these Eastern truths. But when his first attempt fails, he decides to go underground.
The classic move. If you can't change the world through preaching, you change it through a secret society.
He forms a group of 7 himself and 6 others. They have these strict rules. They promise to heal the sick for free, to keep their symbols hidden, and this is the part that sounds like a spy movie, to use the initials RC as a secret password.
I use much more complex passwords for my email, but I get the vibe.
They even promised to keep the order's existence a secret for at least 100 years.
And they actually did. The legend says Rosenkreuz's tomb wasn't even found until 120 years later. And when they found it, it was a heptagonal tomb lit by an eternal light, and his body was completely untouched.
That is so incredibly heavy, like literally preserved by magic.
It's like the iron bones we were talking about earlier, something that refuses to decay.
It ties everything together. Look at how the authors bridge this back to the Masons. They use this hilarious satirical poster from 1676. It's an ad for a joint dinner between the Rosicrucians, the Masons, and a new party of the Green Ribbon.
Let me guess. The menu was phoenix eggs and unicorn steak?
Persistently, black swan pies and unicorn fillet.
It sounds ridiculous, but the authors use it to show that even in satire, the public perceived these groups as being connected.
And they cite the great historian Frances Yates. She argues that this satire actually points to a real early tradition of cooperation between these secret societies. And then there's De Quincey, who basically says Rosicrucianism moved to England and became Freemasonry.
So the whole thing is just one big, long, continuous handoff of secret papers?
Exactly. From the alchemy of the Middle East, to the German mystics, to the English Masons. And it all culminates in this incredible goal mentioned in a 1788 document. They wanted to release the natural light that had been buried by the curse of the fall.
The fall. That's the Luciferian element again, isn't it?
Right, to bring out the hidden God within. The authors are saying that even if the history is messy, the intent is the same, using the tools of the craft to trigger a spiritual awakening.
It's a pretty intense way to look at a construction manual.
But don't forget where it all starts. The authors bring us back to the very beginning of the Masonic lineage, the ancient charters. They trace the skills of masonry all the way back to Lamech, the ancestor of Noah.
Back to the prehistoric stuff.
Yeah, Lamech's children, Tubal the builder, Tubal Cain the smith, and Nomama, who invented weaving.
We're back to the metals.
We are Tubal Cain, our old friend from the start of the episode, the one who forges tools of copper and iron. The authors note that some historians even link him to Vulcan, the Roman god of fire.
So we've gone from a mysterious German monk in a tomb to an ancient blacksmith forging the very tools of civilization.
It's all one loop, the iron pillar of the universe being hammered into shape one generation at a time. All right, let's pick up the thread. We just finished talking about the Rosicrucian handoff, but now the authors are pulling us even further back. They're moving from the 17th century straight into the pre-flood era.
Back to the beginning. My brain is already feeling the temporal whiplash.
It gets deeper. Look at how they link Tubal Cain, the blacksmith we mentioned earlier, to these Cainites. They say these were nomadic tribes near the Caspian Sea, descendants of Cain, who were basically hereditary blacksmiths and horsemen.
So Cain wasn't just the first murderer, he was also the first guy running a heavy machinery workshop.
And apparently, he was teaching geometry to his son just so they could build more cities. It's like the first family was obsessed with urban planning.
But the authors use this to make a much bigger point about the shadow history. They say the Masonic legend claims geometry was invented by Adam. He taught it to Cain so he could build the first cities.
So, civilization itself, the very act of building, is tied to this lineage of the forbidden line.
Exactly. And it leads right into the Tower of Babel. Now, most people see Babel as a story about God punishing human pride, but look at how the authors reframe it.
Let me guess. The tower wasn't a mistake. It was a prototype.
Exactly. They say the tower represents a spiritual pursuit of self-enlightenment. It was a stage in planetary evolution where humanity was trying to reconnect with the divine. The confusion of tongues wasn't just a punishment, it was an intervention because humans were evolving too fast.
Wait, so the Luciferian impulse here is actually the drive to grow, to learn, to build, and the establishment? The heavens had to step in and shut it down?
That's precisely the claim. They say the Luciferian tendencies had to be checked by external intervention. They even mention that Babel literally means gate of God, implying it was a portal between worlds.
It's so much more subversive than the Sunday school version. But it's getting complicated. They're saying modern Masons try to deny this Babel connection.
They are. They say the official version of Masonry replaces the wild, chaotic story of Nimrod and Babel with a much safer story, the Temple of Solomon.
Because Solomon is much easier to market than a rebellious giant building a tower to heaven.
Right. But the authors argue the old Noahic tradition, this older, much more primal, pre-flood Masonry is still lurking in the shadows. They even point to the French Rite, where the password is an anagram of Babylon.
You can't scrub the old paint off that badly. The ghosts of Nimrod are still in the walls.
Okay, but let's look at the shift. They move from the tower to the temple. And suddenly, we're in the era of King Solomon and Hiram Abiff.
And this is where the metallurgy theme comes back with a vengeance. Look at how they describe Hiram Abiff. He's a master craftsman, a metal worker, and here's the kicker, a magician.
Of course. In this book, if you can work with iron, you're basically a sorcerer.
And they tie him back to that Dean God archetype we talked about earlier. They call him the son of the widow.
Wait, son of the widow? That sounds so tragic.
It's coded, Emily. They say this is a reference to the dying god of Middle Eastern myth, the one who descends into the underworld and is mourned by a mother goddess, like Isis mourning Osiris, or Ishtar mourning Tammuz.
So the building of the temple isn't just construction, it's a ritual of death and rebirth?
Precisely. And the tragedy of Hiram Abiff is incredibly visceral. The authors describe how 3 disgruntled workmen, Odilo, and Jehilam ambushed him at the gates.
Let me guess. They didn't just take his tools.
No, they went for the throat. They hit him with a square, then a gad, and finally, they struck him between the eyes with a hammer. He died bleeding out, refusing to reveal the secret password even as he expired.
That is brutal. It's so metallic. The heavy tools, the crushing blows.
It's the weight of the craft. But look at the end. They didn't just leave him there. The masters used a strong grip of the lion's paw to bring him back.
Which, as they note, links him to the zodiacal sign of Leo. It's that cycle of the sun, the dying and rising god, embedded in the very stones of the temple.
So, from the iron bones of Set to the murdered architect of Solomon, it's all just one long, bloody, beautiful attempt to forge something eternal.
Exactly. The shadow history isn't just about what happened, it's about the pattern of the struggle itself.
God, that is heavy. I need a second to process that much blood and symbolism.
Agreed. Let's just take 5 and grab some water before we lose the thread.